The Rainwater Killer, Episode 16, a Haunted Library exclusive series. The following narrative is told from a third-person point of view. Pump House Park is a beautiful, well-kept park with an amazing landscape of central lawns and benches, trees and flowers located in New York. Mark Hilberg, a 49-year-old successful Manhattan lawyer, was jogging here with his dog, a 3-year-old German Shepherd named Jimmy. The colors of the park today were vivid with fall colors. Damp leaves crunched under his feet as he steadied his pace. It was after 5 in the evening, and he'd broken free from the office early to spend some time at the park before the sunset. He had been working a lot lately on numerous cases, and had been neglecting his dog. Today he had decided to ditch work and get some fresh air. He was meeting up with a longtime friend who had agreed to jog beside him. Like everybody else in the state, the two had recently been spending time talking about the Rainwater Killer and who he might be. As twisted as it was, the elusive killer had become a celebrity of sorts, with his rain mask deposit sketch plastered all over the streets, parks, and subways. The only person more spoken of than the Rainwater Killer himself was the detective from Arkansas who had promised New Yorkers the killer would be arrested soon, and this was 3 weeks ago at the press conference. Mark had been following all the newspaper articles and press conferences that Detective Allen had given thus far. He sat down on a bench and took out his phone, making a call to his friend who was now running late. Jimmy shot up on the bench and licked him on the cheek. He unfastened the dog's chain and allowed Jimmy to roam a few feet in front of him. After a few minutes of conversation, he hung up the phone and leaned back on the bench, enjoying the cool breeze and the slight mist in the air. It was 2 days until Halloween, and unseasonably warm for this time of year in New York. Today was cloudy, dreary, and 59 degrees, and it felt amazing. In fact, Mark had contacted the NYPD in hopes of working with them if any legalities may occur once the Rainwater Killer was captured. He had spoke to Detective Allen and Sheriff Lutz. Mark was a prominent criminal prosecuting attorney, and both officers had accepted his invitation to the case. He sat up on the bench to see his longtime lady friend, Tina, finally arrive. She was dressed in jogging pants and a gray sweater. She didn't want to jog alone, so he had agreed to meet her. "You're late." "No, it's beautiful out. Just catching my breath. Waiting on you. Have a seat." She sat down and they spoke about her day. She was a registered nurse and had just left a 10-hour shift. The two had been best friends for more than 10 years. They stood. The plan was to jog the park one time and get out before the sunset. Pump House Park in total is about 2 full miles of paved jogging paths that cross and loop one another. Mark checked his wristwatch. It was 6:15. Tina suggested they jog north, which would lead them to the back of the park where the huge pond was. The area was breathtaking, as all the flowers from the trees would float into the pond, covering it up with an array of fall colors. She pointed to a dog that was approaching who looked just like Mark's dog, Jimmy. No sooner had she lifted her hand than the arrow blasted through Mark's skull, immediately shutting his brain down. The wheezing sound from the speed of the arrow made her turn to see the horrific sight that would haunt her for the rest of her life. She screamed. It was a scream so loud that onlookers would report later they thought come from a wounded animal. Mark staggered, his eyes wide, his body convulsing. The arrow was halfway lodged into his head, the spear deep in brain matter. Sensing something was wrong, Jimmy whined and began to bark. Blood began to spill from the hole in Mark's head. His world went dizzy, then it spiraled into blackness. He had barely felt any pain. He lifted his arm to Tina, a last desperate plea for help, before face-planting on the ground where he lay dead, the force of the arrow against the concrete completing its direction as the tip pushed clean through the back of Mark's head. Jimmy rushed to his fallen owner and began to whine and whimper. Onlookers ran over and began to panic. Tina's screams echoed through the park. A man who had been jogging rushed over and began to scream out, "Get down! Someone's shooting! Get down, everybody! Down on the ground!" Everybody in the park hunkered down, got on their stomachs, and feared the worst from an unknown assassin with a crossbow. 100 yards away, the Rainwater Killer calmly stood from his crouched position between the two cars. He looked around as panic ensued. He placed the bow in the back seat and drove off calmly into the New York sunset.